calls it a strike to count on Taylor. Reyes fires, swinging a drive, deep left field. It's his way back. Walker Buehler.
What's up, everyone? Welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined tonight by Matthew Moreno, Blake Williams. Happy to be back with you. Happy to be celebrating a successful week of victories for the Dodgers. Matt, I'll start with you. How are you doing on Sunday night?
I'm good. Much better now that I get to sit back in, I guess, an analyst seat, if you will, and not needing to host, because it's definitely not something I enjoy doing per se. I'm happy to fill in whenever we need it, but it's not a strong suit. You and Scott definitely are ahead of me on our power rankings of Dodger Blue hosts.
Well, I appreciate it. It's good to be back, Blake. We've already got people in the chat wanting to know your thoughts on your new New England Patriots quarterback.
Yeah, I was excited. He was the guy I wanted all along. I never wanted them to trade out of that spot, but I think they had a pretty good draft overall. Kind of exciting. I followed the whole thing, and then 3 undrafted free agents, so I enjoy that a lot.
Yeah, it's a weird sensation for me as a Raiders fan to actually be happy with what we did in both our first round and second round picks. From there, who cares? But they kind of nailed their first two. So, but we're here to talk some Dodgers baseball. So let's dive right in. Dodgers Sunday. Of course, we come on after things go sideways. They snap a 6-game winning streak today with a 3-1 loss. But that means prior to that, they had won 6 games in a row. 5 of those were on the road trip. So 5 straight road wins to start this one, Matt. Where do you want to start? I mean, the pitching was great. The offense was great. The bullpen was great. What stood out to you most from the last week of Dodgers baseball?
Yeah, well, there was one comment in here from David Sabatini, I think is his last name. He says, "Hang on, Toronto just made another diving catch in the outfield." Yeah, seriously. That sums up Sunday pretty well. The Blue Jays defense certainly had their day. But really, I think for me, starting pitching is what stood out. The offense is obviously nice, but it's something we sort of have expected and anticipated would happen because of the lineup. But starting pitching, outside of Glasnow, like the Dodgers weren't getting any length from their starters consistently, and that trend started to sort of shift. And you saw kind of the domino effect from that, of the bullpen being in better shape, of being able to rely on their better pieces, and I know that might be a term we use loosely right now, but hey, it helps.
Yeah, 11 runs in their last 7 games allowed is a pretty remarkable number. Especially they scored 43 runs in that 6-game winning streak, and then the bullpen 22 and a third innings, a .81 ERA with 22 strikeouts and a WHIP under 1. Blake, when you look back on the National Series, which let's be honest, even if it's a road series, you can't do worse than 2 out of 3 there. They get the full sweep. They go to Toronto, a team that I would say is pretty solid. Take the first 2 in convincing fashion, nearly in the 8th inning, come back and take Sunday's game to make this a perfect sweep. But what stands out to you most, Blake, from the last 7 or 8 days?
That they played up to their actual talent level all around, pretty much. Like before this week, if you said the Dodgers were going to go 5-1 on the road trip, I think everyone kind of would have laughed at you with how bad they were playing. Pretty much nothing was going right, and then they started to turn it around against the Mets there, and then they took it onto the road and kept playing well, and that's what you want to see from this team. They're so talented. We all know that. It's just about playing consistently. Of course, they're going to have ups and downs throughout the year. Like, no one expected them to win 150 games or anything. They're going to lose games this year. That's going to happen, but when the way they were losing with how bad they were playing, it was just not great to watch, and then it was just nice to see them turn it around, and that's really what stood out to me. Like, if they play to their talent level, they're going to win a lot of games.
Yeah, and I'm with you. And I was the person that's been on here the last couple of weeks saying, hey, it's only April, relax. And I joked on our Friday post-game show, it's still only April, so relax. So just like I didn't want to overreact to being 13 and 11 or whatever they were, I wasn't overreacting to being 18 and 11 either. There's a long way to go. But Matt, do you sort of agree with that sentiment? Watching this team play against the Nationals, against the Mets, and then against the Blue Jays, do you feel like we're starting to see maybe the 2024 Dodgers that we expected?
I think in glimpses, yes. It's still hard for me because somebody like Brusdar Graterol isn't around, and credit to Andy Pages for coming up and making an impact, but also we weren't necessarily expecting that or anticipating it, certainly not this early. So there's going to be an interesting discussion down the line. I know we're going to do kind of a segment with some fun stuff tonight, and Pages is a topic there, but I think we did see it certainly in some glimpses.
Yeah. I'm with you. It's again, those numbers. I mean, they're averaging over 7 runs per game over the last week while allowing, a run and a half. So when you do those two things, we mentioned the starting pitching, another dominant start from Tyler Glass. Now, although we did have a slight scare though, Matt, this is a guy that the biggest concern is not whether or not he can pitch well. It's whether he can pitch. He leaves the game early. We've been told though, just hand cramps, nothing to worry about, right?
Yeah, that's what Glasnow said. It's what Dave Roberts said. But I think what's kind of weird too is Glasnow also said it started in his right calf before sort of moving its way up, which that's not necessarily something I had heard, and I wouldn't necessarily connect the hand to the calf. But hey, I'm not a doctor. But yeah, fortunately, all things he appears to be fine. He said he was sweating a lot. It was also kind of humid inside that dome in Toronto at the Rogers Center, and so he should be okay moving forward.
Yeah. Thankfully, we have Dave Roberts, who's a medical expert, to explain all these things to us. So nothing to worry about. Blake, one other storyline. Ohtani returning to the fateful trip to Toronto, or I guess not returning because he never was there in the first place. But in Toronto, were you surprised at all by the reception that he got?
I don't think so. I kind of expected that because the Blue Jays fans were pretty mad about the whole situation. And of course, it wasn't Ohtani's fault. Like, he can't control that. There were false reports out there about his plans or anything like that. But fans are sometimes irrational and very passionate about their team. So I think there was one Blue Jays fan who was saying like there was more booing ownership for not pursuing him harder than that. And I'm sure there was also a big group of Blue Jays fans that were actually just booing Ohtani. Jack Harris posted the NHL Hall of Fame. They had a picture of Ohtani up saying he couldn't go in because he didn't sign with the Blue Jays. So like stuff like that, it's funny, but at the same time, it's probably like the first time Ohtani's ever actually been booed at a stadium, like actually booed for people not liking him, because even with the Angels, like he was very popular and everyone was like, hey, come to our team when you're leaving Anaheim. Yeah. So he handled it well. Of course, he homered in his first at bat there and actually gave the fans something to boo about, but yeah, it was kind of a funny whole thing there.
Yeah, you mentioned Jack Harris. The plan is for him to be on our show tomorrow morning, so stay tuned for that. We're going to get the full scoop on kind of the whole Toronto experience for Jack and his thoughts on the first few weeks of the season. So again, Jack Harris from the LA Times planning to join us tomorrow morning. It should be posted by the middle of the morning. 10 a.m. is our goal. 10 a.m. is our goal. So, well, let's dive into what we got tonight. We've got a full show for you. I'm excited. We're going to do a hot take stock report here. After 30 games in the season, I've got a list of 9 hot takes, and these guys are going to tell me whether they're buying the take, they're selling the take, or holding the take. Then we are going to do something that I am just over the moon about. We're going to draft Dodgers relievers. There are 13 relievers on the 40-man roster at the current moment, and we're going to take Evan Phillips off of that list because he's a cheat code compared to everybody else and draft the remaining 12 onto 3 teams. So that'll be good fun. After that, we'll talk about the week ahead. Dodgers returning to Arizona, site of the NLDS that we all want to forget about from last week. I see some people asking about injury updates. We've got a Walker Buehler, Blake Treinen, Graterol, Jason Hayward updates from the past few days. And then, of course, we will get to questions and answers. As always, if you want to put a super chat in there and ask us a question, we'll stop what we're talking about at the moment, pause, answer your question. But let's start by diving into a game that I'm calling Hot Take Stock Market. Again, I'm going to place a hot take on the screen, and we'll alternate whether it's Matt or whether it's Blake. And we'll start with the hot take, and you've got to either buy the hot take, sell the hot take, or say, hold, I need to reserve judgment here. But the rule is you're only allowed to reserve judgment twice. So none of this sitting on the fence stuff. You've got to be picking sides here. And I see Noah with the super chat. Noah, we appreciate it. He says Andy Pages has a higher batting average, Matt's favorite, and OPS than Tatis and Ronald Acuna. So Noah, in honor of your super chat, let's just start with the Andy Pages hot take that I have on here. The hot take, some of these are more spicy than others, okay? I'll just say that. But the hot take here with Andy Pages is that his current production is sustainable. He's hitting 300 with a 326 on base, a 535 slugging percentage after today's 2 for 4. That would have been better if not for George Springer robbing him of a double in the 9th inning. So this is a guy who's been on fire. We know that the prospect pedigree. We know he's coming off of a shoulder injury. Blake, I'll start with you on this one. Buying, selling, or holding that what we're seeing from Andy Pages is 90 to 95% sustainable.
I'm going to sell that one. I don't think he's going to hit like around 300 all year. He probably won't slug as well as he's been doing all year. It's a tough one because I believe in his talent, but I'm just not sure it's going to stay at this level that it's been. Pitchers are going to adjust to him. He's going to go through a rookie slump. It happens to everyone. So maybe he'll pick it up again at some point as well, but I think there's going to be a slump in there that kind of brings it down. But it's really tough to sell because I do believe in him and his talent and what he's done, and I think he's earned a roster spot. I just think the current numbers he's producing is unsustainable.
127 is the weighted runs created plus. Just out of curiosity on that one, Blake, like, are you, do you think like 110 is a number where it might sort of land around, and does that feel more sustainable?
I think for a rookie season, yeah. I would say maybe next year or like just going into the future, he can get up to that 120, 130, maybe even some years of 140 mark. It's just, I have a very tough time seeing any rookie come in and do as well as he's been doing. It's not really something that happens often.
Matt, what do you think? Buy, sell, or hold Page's sustaining what we've seen so far?
No, I'm selling, and I think it's an easy one for me just because his recent production has been so high. Like I just don't, like Blake said, like it's hard to envision sort of. Yes, you have your superstars that perform at that level for, an entire year. Maybe there's some slumps for a week or two, whatever mixed in. But other than that, like typically you do see players, endure some ebbs and flows throughout this season. And Pages being a rookie who also doesn't have a ton of experience at the AAA level before he's come up, like that all is factors in me selling this. And it's not a slight to Pages at all. I think I can sell and he'll still certainly be productive for the Dodgers. It's just not necessarily with the OPS he has right now and the computer stats that you guys spit out.
Yeah. To be clear on the limited AAA experience, prior to this season, he had 1 game and 4 plate appearances at AAA. He went back to start the year, 73 more plate appearances there. But I'm with you guys. I think we all are in agreement that the offense is going to be good, whether it's going to be 123 weighted runs created plus, I think is where we all agree. So I'm selling that the production we've seen from Pages is sustainable, although I think we are all buying Andy Pages stock. I literally went to my fantasy league a few days ago and picked up Andy Pages. So I am buying stock as much as possible in Andy Pages. Let's go to the second hot take here. Elite offense Max Muncy is back. This is a guy who 258 batting average, 357 on base, 495 slugging on the season. The last 2 weeks, 161 weighted runs created plus. This guy has been on an absolute tear. Had another double today down the line. Matt, I'll start to you. Is elite offensive Max Muncy a guy that we've seen for extended periods of time before? Is he back?
Oh man, this is tough. I'm probably selling just because he's too streaky. So I guess he's back from the standpoint of, in my opinion, like we'll see this maybe for 2 or 3 weeks, but I don't anticipate it like holding for a full season. I think we've seen a little too much up and down from Muncy, and I think some of the strikeouts, I know he does walk, but some of the strikeouts would still concern me.
Blake, 2019 and 2021, he put weighted runs created pluses in the upper 130s. He's at 137 right now. Are you buying that we could be back to 2019, 2021 Max Muncy levels?
I think I'll hold on this one for now. His OPS last year was about 800, and this year it's 850. So it's not a huge difference there. Like, he's certainly been better, but I feel like that's a number that's pretty sustainable for him with the power. Yeah, we're going to see ups and downs with him, but at the same time, like, we know he has the talent and he's been a very good hitter throughout his career. He had the down year after the injury, and then he was a bit slow to come back. But I mean, I think we've already seen him be kind of up and down this year with his struggles and then his peaks. And so I think it's sustainable at this point, and I'll hold on that. If it was actually a stock, I'd probably sell and then try and buy back later when he picks it up. But since that's not part of this game, I'm just going to hold.
340 batting average on balls in play is the part that terrifies me, and yet I'm in on this. I think Muncy in this lineup is going to benefit from the guys hitting in front of him, the guys that are going to be on base in front of him. I know the strikeout rate is way up. The walkout rate is walk rate is pretty much about average, but I'm buying that elite Max Muncy is back. This is a guy who's going to be a key player in the middle of that Dodger lineup. And I think, it's not going to be as hot as he's maybe been the last couple of months, but I think that 850 OPS that he's currently sitting at, I don't think it's crazy to imagine that he hits 30 home runs with an OPS at 850. So I'm going to buy on Max Muncy. So we've got to buy. Blake is using one of his only 2 holds. He only gets 2 of these. He's using one here, and Matt is selling Max Muncy as being back. Let's go to a similar player, and but maybe on the opposite end here. Teoscar Hernandez. Buying or selling that Teoscar Hernandez concerns are warranted. 30% strikeout rate the last 2 weeks. That was before going 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts today. The hard hit rate, the exit velocity, the barrel rates are all well above average, but his expected batting average, his whiff rate, his strikeout rate are all in the bottom 20 percentile. Blake, where are you at on Teoscar Hernandez? Are you concerned? We know he got off to the hot start the first week against left-handed pitching. Since then, I think it's been a little more down than it has been up. So are you buying or selling concerns with Teoscar Hernandez?
I guess based on that question, I'll buy because it is the player we had the concerns about when we signed him. They knew he was going to strike out a lot. They knew he was coming off a down season. It wasn't you're going and getting Ohtani and you're going to get an elite offensive player. There were concerns with Teoscar, which is why they were able to get him on a 1-year deal. So I'll buy that. I still think he's going to be a good player, but the concerns are very real.
Matt?
I'm buying also just from the standpoint of, for me personally, I was a little skeptical that Teoscar's struggles last season were because of hitting at T-Mobile, and his home road splits were so drastic. I thought okay, I mean, it's kind of an easy excuse, if you will. So I wasn't necessarily expecting him to be as productive as he's been already this season. So like Blake said, this is the player that the Dodgers sort of knew they were getting. So it's an easy buy for me.
Yeah, I'm checking to see if our guy Scott is watching and texting us right now. This is his guy right here. He's selling the crap out of Teoscar Hernandez concerns. But I'm with you guys. Even his numbers this year, we talked about Muncy having a batting average on balls in play that wasn't sustainable. Teoscar's at 371 batting average on balls in play. League average is 300, which means that his 266 batting average on the season is probably not sustainable. The 33.9% strikeout rate would be the highest since 2017 in his career. I'm holding. This is going to be one of my 2 holds. I'm not ready to throw all the chips away yet. And again, it's not to say that we think he's going to be terrible or he's going to be a superstar. I just give him some time adjusting to a new situation, a new lineup, et cetera. So I'm holding on my Teoscar Hernandez concerns, although it's we're inching towards being concerned with Teoscar Hernandez. Let's go to the next one here. We're going to try and rapid fire these. Another offensive one here. Matt, we'll come to you first. Hot take stock market. Buying or selling Miguel Rojas can be an average or better hitter this year. This is not a guy that has a ton of above average offensive seasons in his career. 120 weighted runs created plus the last 2 weeks. He's walking 3 times as many as he's striking out. He's got an OPS of almost 800. I'll mention this, Matt, just so that you know. The nerd stats back this up. Expected batting average of 296 is elite. Chase rate, whiff rate, strikeout rate, all well above average. So, Matt, this feels like a guy that you're slowly adopting into the Matt Moreno fraternity here. Buying or selling Miguel Rojas being an average or better hitter?
I'm buying it at the average, basically
100 weighted runs created plus. League average we will take for Miguel Rojas.
Right. And I think he's capable of doing that. Anything else at the top? I mean, look, even if it's 99 weighted ones created plus or something like that, I'm gonna consider it league average. It's good enough for me. And I think more we've seen some encouraging signs from him this year. I think he's also healthier now, at least in terms of his wrists, and he didn't necessarily use it as an excuse, but I think it was something that was there that he dealt with last season that sort of impacted, his swing and maybe some strength there. But for a while, I think earlier this season, he had more home runs than Ohtani, right? So anybody that does that is, I'm buying their stock in my book.
So Blake, this is a guy, if we're talking weighted runs created plus, he has had one season as an entire career where he's been above average. That was the 2020 season. So do with that information what you want. Last season, he was 69 weighted runs created plus, 2022, 70 weighted runs created plus. Those are the last 2 years. So where are you at on this one, Blake? Buying or selling that Rojas can be like in the 98 plus range?
98 plus, I think I'm selling. I want to say he'll be in like the 90 range, but not 98, which probably splitting hairs there. But based on the last 3 years, it's just he hasn't been close to that mark. So yeah, I'm probably selling that. I think he'll be better than he was last year because he doesn't have to be in an everyday role, and that'll help his offense. It's not going to like wear his body out playing every day, and I think that'll help a lot. So I was kind of on the fence about buying this one, but just based on the track record, I think I'm going to sell with the hope that he's around the 90 mark and not 98. But like if we're saying 90s league average, then I'll buy. But with the mark you set there of 98, I'm going to sell.
I feel like that was a loaded question for Blake because he's already bought up all the Willie Adames stock. So he doesn't have anything. He doesn't have anywhere else to go.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I'm with Blake though. I'm selling this. Just looking at the track record, he's got a 463 slug right now. He has not had a slugging percentage over 400 at any point in his career other than that 2020 shortened season. So maybe he's turning back the clock. You never know.
He's due.
But yeah, he's due. That's one way to put it. He's very due, apparently, based on these numbers. But yeah, sell from me. So 2 sells, but a buy. Matt, you were buying your Miggy Rose stock, right?
Yeah, I think he's got the veteran grit. He's healthier this year. I think he's just trending. He's trending up where the Dodgers are managing him. They're not running him into the ground. Make sure to keep one of their big bats healthy throughout the season, and I think he'll end up being about league average this year.
Okay.
Breakout season at 35 years old.
Hey, whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes. All right, this one's on a platter for Blake. Hot take here. James Outman rookie year was a fluke. The guy we're seeing right now who's hitting like $170, this is who James Outman really is. Last year was just a flash in the pan. Buying, selling, or holding here, Blake?
I'll buy it. I don't think he's as bad as he's been this year, and I just don't think he's as good as he was last year. I think a lot of his expected stats kind of alluded to him being pretty lucky, but like I also don't think he's as bad as he's been, and I think that's important to note. He's going to be better. I'm pretty sure that's a safe bet to say, but the Dodgers treat him like a platoon player, even though they keep saying he's not a platoon player. Dave Roberts will say that 10 times and then platoon him the next 10 games. So I think it says more about what the Dodgers are doing with him than what they're actually saying. And I think they have a bit of a belief that he's a platoon player, and last year wasn't really sustainable. So yeah, I'll buy that stock.
Matt, this is a guy who was 18% better than league average offensively last year. He's currently 34% below league average this year. There's some reason for optimism. I think the batting average on balls in play, which is a number I've referenced a couple times, he's on the opposite end of the spectrum. He's about 50 to 55 points below league average. So if that ticks up, then the batting average probably closer to league average, and maybe we're not as concerned here. But buying or selling that last year was an outlier and that this year is more of a sign of who James Outman's going to be moving forward?
I'm going to hold on this one. I'm not really sure, honestly. I mean, we saw, like, I was concerned with Outman last season when he went through his struggle. I mean, it felt like he struggled for like a month straight, and I was skeptical of him even going into the season to begin with, of what, the Dodgers were going to be relying on and needing from him. But then to his credit, he withstood those struggles, ended up bouncing back. He all around, he had a good, solid season. But to see him sort of struggling again gives me some cause for concern. But I've seen him recover, so that's why this is an easy hold for me.
Blake, I see people in the chat talking about the platooning. How much do you, this is a separate question, but how much do you buy that not being able to play every day is actually hurting his development and probably hurting his ability to perform at a higher level?
It probably has some effect on it. It's easier for guys to get into a rhythm when they're playing every day. And I don't think Outman necessarily warranted being a platoon player this early in his career. I'd kind of prefer to see them give players a chance before just saying you're a platoon guy. And then how it works out, like if you end up having to go to a platoon, then great, do it. I'm all for it. But at this early in his career, it just seemed a little strange to me. I thought they were going to end up doing it, but yeah, I just don't necessarily agree with that strategy there.
Yeah.
but I think it really just kind of shows they don't have a ton of faith in Outman to begin with. But that's just my read on it.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess there's a positive spin, which is, well, they need to find ways to get Kike Hernandez and Chris Taylor and those guys like opportunities somewhere, and it's not really going to be. There's a whole. We'll get trust me. We got Chris Taylor coming, everybody. Okay,
But
I'm not saying they should be getting these guys opportunities. Let me make abundantly clear. I'm just saying the first 3 weeks of the season, Dave's probably looking at his lineup card and saying, "All right, like we can give Luxy some days off, and we could give Outman some days off, and that's about it." So. It's possible that's part of the reason, but I was surprised, Blake. You nailed it. One of your bold predictions was that he'd be a platoon player. Dave Roberts proved you wrong like 3 days later, and then he proved you right the rest of the season. So I'm selling. I think James Outman is closer to where he was last year. The real James Outman, I think, is closer to last year's version than the one we're seeing. I don't think he's going to be like a massive offensive player necessarily, but I think this is a guy who's going to be average to slightly above average offensively while giving you really, really good defense in center field. I think right now he's 87th percentile and outs above average out there, which is positive. So I think that's just going to be who he is. I think he's going to hit for some power. I think he's going to strike out a lot, and I think he's going to play good defense. So that's what I think. I think the batting average on balls in play normalizes, and those numbers kind of tick back up. So that's my read on Outman.
I think, I mean, and it's a separate conversation from this game, so sorry to sort of sidetrack us a little bit. What makes it hard with Outman and what will be interesting is if he does sort of struggle a little bit and he is needing to be platoon, like there are other weaknesses on the Dodgers roster that they're trying to platoon and figure out. And so like that would be my concern is like down the line, mainly October, obviously, like has that sort of picture just been sorted out? Has Outman rebounded the way, maybe he did last year?
Yeah, I think it's fair. And there are some, I should mention, there are some nerd stats, 89th percentile in sweet spot, 64th percentile hard hit rate. So like there are some numbers that suggest there might be a little bit of bad luck here, but there's other stuff that says, to Blake's point, he probably got a little bit fortunate last year. And so I would argue the truth is somewhere in the middle. Let's get to a couple more. Speaking of Chris Taylor, this is probably like the coldest take of all of these. It's mostly a roster decision more than a player decision. Hot take, Matt. Chris Taylor won't make it to October as a member of the Dodgers. Buying, selling, or holding?
Ooh. At first, I thought maybe this was going to be like just part of the organization, like active, not active roster type thing. Oh, man.
Phantom IL stints don't count here.
Yeah. Let's see. Man, this is tough. I'm still selling on this.
Okay.
I think the Dodgers believe in him and they're going to give him every opportunity to come out of his slump, even if it does include, a couple weeks on the IL. Two, if they were to trade him, it would be because he has sort of remained in the dumps. And at that point, who's taking him on? I guess we could factor in potentially they just outright release him and eat the money, which would surprise me a little bit. So I'm, let's see. I guess I need to sell this one because I think he'll remain in the organization. Not necessarily active.
Michael in the chat says he's never bought something more in his life than this one. That's probably with your head or your heart more than your head, potentially. Blake, what do you think real quick? I see we've got a super chat. We'll get to that one here in just a second. Real quick on this one. Buying or selling that Chris Taylor is not a member of the Dodgers organization in October?
I want to say sell, but I'm going to go with my second hold here. I could see it going either way. Like, I don't really see them just releasing Chris Taylor. I think they value him and like him too much just to have around as a clubhouse guy and a versatile defensive piece. But he has to start hitting more. And if that doesn't happen, then maybe they decide to make that move. But I just don't think we're even close to the point where they just end up releasing Chris Taylor or moving on from him. So yeah, I'll hold with the thought that it could go either way. And I'm just not ready to make that decision on that one yet.
Yeah, every fiber of my body wants to buy, but they're not going to give the Trace Thompson treatment to Chris Taylor. He's done too much for the organization. He's too much of a respected guy. I'm selling this just because I think he's going to be there in some form or fashion. I think he's with the organization. I don't think he gets released. I definitely don't think anybody's trading for him. And so I think he's here to stay. Now, I think he could be injured list. I think that's a possibility, but I'm not, as much as I would like to say he doesn't deserve a roster spot, I just don't see that happening personally. We've got the super chat here from J Riff, which I think actually leads into this a little bit. He said the amount of runway they've given Pages has been surprising, but he has performed. Does Outman start losing playing time to him soon, if not already? Matt, I think the biggest piece of this question, the reason that we almost don't have to answer it yet is because A, Jason Hayward's out for a while. B, Chris Taylor's been really, really bad. And Kike Hernandez hasn't been much better. So it feels like Outman and Pages can both play next to each other for a long time. But if any of those guys get better or Hayward comes back, that's when I think we're going to start having some interesting conversations. How do you see that playing itself out, Pages and Outman, and let's say Hayward coming back in a month or something?
Yeah, that would be interesting because I think at first the initial step would be basically to platoon Pages and Outman and then get Pages additional starts in one of the corner spots, depending on the pitching matchups throughout the week. But if it boils down to, one of the other outfielders is also performing well, whether it's Hayward, Taylor, Kike, sort of solidifies that a little bit, then I think we do look at a scenario where Pages is starting ahead of Outman pretty much every single time. And Outman's getting occasional starts just because the Dodgers do try to keep everybody fresh, but he would go from, kind of platoon to maybe sporadic player. And so, yeah, that could be interesting.
Blake, what's your read on this one, the Pages and Outman? Because I think Matt's idea of a platoon is interesting. The problem is Pages as a righty is going to see the 25% side of that platoon, which isn't how anybody would necessarily want it to be drawn up from the first point. So how do you see Pages and Outman coexisting or not coexisting if and when that right field spot gets taken?
Yeah, if that's taken, I wouldn't be totally surprised if Outman is the one who gets optioned if he doesn't turn around his production soon. I threw that into our text thread today. Said, could Outman be optioned when Hayward's back? And
I missed that somehow, Blake. There's a lot of other stuff going on that I honestly don't even remember seeing that.
Okay, well, yeah, I kind of threw that idea out there just because I don't think they're releasing Chris Taylor at this point or anything, but Kike Hernandez is staying. Like, they just don't really have many guys, and then you're coming down to it's either optioning Pages or Outman if everyone's healthy. So I think right now Outman's the obvious one to get optioned there, but thankfully for Outman, it seems like there's going to be a while for that to actually end up happening. We don't really know when Jason Hayward's coming back, if he does. So, yeah, I don't think it's something Outman has to worry about right now, but if it keeps trending this way and he doesn't really increase his production and Pages keeps hitting well, then I think Outman could end up in AAA or at least on the outside looking in on the roster.
And Pages has the capability of playing center field, right?
Yeah, he's played it a few times already this year with the Dodgers, and that's kind of always one of the scouting reports on him, that he's a pretty good defender, even if you put him in center field, so they could manage with him out there if they needed to.
And to be clear, you would rather both Outman and Pages be playing. You're low on Hayward to begin with, Blake. So I imagine if it were up to you, like, we would not be having the conversation of do we option Outman or Pages? It would be do we DFA Hayward or Taylor, right?
Yeah, that's the correct way of thinking about it. But the Dodgers are going to do whatever they can to keep their depth and to keep their guys around. Like, they're not just going to release Hayward. They're probably not going to release Chris Taylor. They're not going to release Kike. You need Austin Barnes on the bench as your backup catcher. Miguel Rojas is kind of locked into that backup infield spot. So you're really deciding between one of those outfielders, and it just seems like one of the guys with options is going to be the one who would get moved as long as everyone's healthy.
Weapon. That's offensive weapon Miguel Rojas to you, by the way, Blake, okay?
And Austin Barnes, see, 1,000 on base percentage is the DH.
What about Kike as the backup catcher then, if you need to do something with Austin Barnes, if Jeff finally gets his wish?
Blake told me Kenley Jansen was coming back soon, so okay. I mean, I suppose he could just fill that role too, right?
Yeah, they got versatility. Muncy was the emergency catcher too for a few years.
There we go. I know we just need Puig back. Puig was the emergency catcher at one point. That's what we need. All right, let's move on with our hot take. Stock market. We appreciate the super chat there. Thank you very much. Another one that this will liven things up a little bit. Blake, we're just gonna come to you because this feels like it belongs in your lap to start with. Blake, Gavin Lux just needs some more time. He just hasn't had long enough to prove himself offensively. He's been great defensively. Nice little starting of a double play today, by the way. But offensively, 460 OPS, not great. Not great there. Are you buying or selling? Because you're out of holds. The rules say, Blake, you're only allowed 2 holds. Are you buying or selling that Gavin Lux just needs more time on offense?
I feel like my answer is going to surprise you, but I'm going to buy this one. I don't think there's any chance he's actually this bad that he's shown. Like, the last time he started a full year, he was an above average offensive player. So I don't think he totally forgot how to hit. He didn't play baseball for a very long time, and I think he's still kind of shaking off some of that rust. And I just don't think he's this bad. I've kind of consistently said it. I don't think he really fits into their long-term plans at this point, but I don't think he's going to be this bad is kind of the only way I can say it. He's going to be better offensively. I do believe that. I just don't believe he's a fit long-term.
Matt, buying or selling, he just needs more time. He's at 80 at bats so far this season.
I'm buying it. I mean, it's basically been 1 month, right? After missing a full year. And so that's
and not even playing every day for a month.
Right. Like, and it's just not enough time. And I agree with Blake. Like, does that mean that I think Lux is going to, hit 300 and, all that stuff? No, but I think his ceiling is certainly much higher than what we've seen from him so far. And offense, like, that was always the big concern was how he was going to, well, it wasn't because then he hit well in spring training and it looked like it was okay. And then, like the regular season came and everything flipped. Like, he's been basically an all-star at second base defensively, and he hasn't necessarily hit yet. So I'm buying this. I do think, I always thought that a decision like this was whether Lux is being able to paint the full picture on Lux wasn't going to happen until closer to like July, maybe middle of June.
Yeah. I think it was on the broadcast, and maybe I saw it on social media, but somebody was sort of speculating that part of the reason with him offensively is that it's possible he's just not trusting his knee yet as far as torquing on that leg and sort of being able to generate some of the power.
Did you say twerking?
I did not say torquing.
Oh,
torque.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Good. Important clarification question for all the people that may have misheard me there. I apologize. Look, yes, I'm buying this. He needs more time. Like we've seen this is when I've seen an extended sample size of a guy being a very good offensive player. I'm not going to ignore all of that after 80 at bats, his first 80 at bats after being out of baseball for 12 months. Like, it's just not going to happen. I need to see more time. I think the nice part for Lux's that benefits Lux is that he's actually been good defensively, 94th percentile, outs above average. And I say that with like the biggest grain of salt because defensive metrics are like not very good, and they're definitely not very good after 20 games. But I think to quote my guy Matthew Moreno over here, to use the eye test, he's looked good there. Like he couldn't throw the ball in spring training from second base to first, and he's been really good. He's made some average plays. He's made some slightly challenging plays. It's not like he's going to win the Gold Glove there, but I think he's been plenty good at second base, similar to Outman, where it's like, all right, at least you don't suck at both things. Like, if you're sucking offensively, at least be competent and above average defensively, I should say. And I think he's doing that. So I think Gavin Lux needs more time. Matt, you said what? Another month? You said July. So you're giving him two or 2.5 more months?
That's more. Yeah. I mean, it's just, even like if you were to give him all of May, like that still is only 2 months after missing it. Like he missed an entire year of baseball. Like we've seen guys struggle coming back from 2 or 3 weeks off the injured list. What do you think a full year is going to be? So like the middle of June, July timeline is a little bit of combination of what I think is fair / what I think how the Dodgers are sort of viewing it anyway.
Okay, let's fire through these last couple because we got a bunch of stuff still to hit. This one is a good one. And I know I started with Blake last time, but we're coming back to Blake for this one. Buying, selling, or holding that Landon Knack is a better option for the starting rotation than your guy, Big Maple James Paxton. Knack, 11 innings, 3.27 ERA, a whip of 1 through 2 starts. Paxton, 20 2/3, 17 walks, 11 strikeouts, just 2 strikeouts in his last 2 starts. He's in the 4th percentile strikeout rate, 2nd percentile walk rate, 9th percentile for hard hit rate, and 18th percentile for expected ERA. Blake, I know you were buying a little bit of Big Maple stock speculatively in spring training. Where are you at on Landon Knack versus James Paxton?
If I had my hold, I'd probably use it here, but I'm gonna lean toward buy.
Wow.
Because Landon Knack has been very impressive. I think what we all kind of expected from him throughout his entire prospect track record was he's going to be like a quality major league starter. He wouldn't come in and be an ace or anything, but we expected at least quality innings. It's the number 4, number 5 starter. With Paxton so far, he's been very lucky. His ERA is very good, but everything else is very bad.
Yeah.
So that gives me concern there. He is your number 5 starter, so like you can deal with that from him, but he needs to cut down on the walks and increase the strikeouts, or he's not going to be able to sustain his shiny ERA that he has. Just the underlying numbers don't really paint a good picture. I don't think the Dodgers are going to make that change and like DFA Paxton or anything anytime soon. They're going to want to keep the depth, but I do think I'm pretty high on Landon Knack, and I do think he's probably a better option.
Look, if you could get something for Syndergaard last year, I mean, heck, Paxton's going to get you like a top 100 prospect at the deadline this year.
Can we point out that Ahmed Rosario with the Rays is like having a breakout right now, just going completely off?
That's hilarious. I had no idea. Friedman knows, man. Friedman knows. First of all, I want to say, Blake, kudos to you. You hinted before the show that you might cheat and use 3 holds. It sounded like you restrained yourself there and you picked a side. So I just want to say thank you there.
Well, I mean, don't we still have one more of these coming
we
up?
have one more to go.
That's probably look at his reaction. See,
I didn't know there was another one. I'm gonna be honest here.
Oh, okay. There we go.
All right. Then you could give him credit. Then I apologize.
Credit to Blake. Matt, where are you at? Buying or selling Landon Knack is better than Paxton?
Man, these last 2 are tough. I regret using my hold earlier. Are we saying Knack is a better option right now, or just like moving forward?
Like if you had to pick one guy for the rest of the season.
Oh, jeez. In that case, I'll buy it.
Wow.
I think Knack is going to have his struggles because as impressive as he's been, it's still only been 2 starts, and there have been not concerning, but like his debut, obviously that first inning, like first batter wasn't pretty, right? But then hey, it went up from there, so it worked out. And then in the second start, I think it was the second or third inning where things got a little bit shaky, but then he settled in. But I think for the rest of the season, I'll still buy it because, like Blake said, Paxton's walks are what concerned me most with him. And if he wasn't getting the strikeouts and was just pitching to contact, which he is still sort of doing, I could live with that. But when you're averaging, 3, 4, 5 walks a start, like that's Scott and I on the Tuesday show we just did when we were discussing Paxton's start, I said what's concerning is for Paxton, he's like 1 or 2 hits away from his season stats looking completely different, and there being a much different feeling around him. So because of that, I'll buy Landon Knack.
So it's interesting. I'm going to hold here. And this is funny because I feel like I was the high man on Landon Knack for like, I just loved the floor that this guy offered. The one thing that hasn't been pointed out, Landon Knack's 2 starts have both been against the Nationals. So that is like, if anything ever screams hold, it's getting 2 decent starts against the Nationals.
Can I quote Mookie here? They drive nice cars too.
Do they? Are we sure that some of the guys on the Nationals drive nice cars?
Probably.
Nice enough cars.
Nice enough. Nicer than I drive is a fair thing. Some of the savant stuff on Knack also not great. So I'm going to hold. But I wrote this headline, so I'm leaning in a particular direction, but I'm going to hold there. Let's do our last one, and then we'll get to Laura's super chat here. Gavin Stone has figured it out. Matt, this is the last one. Buy, sell, or hold. That's 17 innings in his last 3 starts, 2.64 ERA, and just 11 hits. Buying or selling that Gavin Stone has figured it out?
I'm holding on this one. I think it's possible. I guess it depends. Now I'm holding for now, but I think, yes, long-term, like maybe next season, like Stone might settle into a better role type thing. In that case, I would have regret, I guess, not buying at this point. I'll think back to this specific date, April 28th, 2024. I'll hold. I think, one thing with Stone, his last start against the Blue Jays was he went away from a changeup a lot, and he still had success. So that was, credit to him as to, to your question, potentially figuring things out.
Yeah. Blake, the Matt doesn't know about the nerd stats that didn't like Gavin Stone's last start. So where are you at on Gavin Stone?
I'm holding.
Okay. Oh, no, you're not allowed.
I'm going to sell on this one. I think he's a fine back into the rotation starter, but I still have some concerns about him. I think he only had 2 swing and misses in that
It's
start.
like a 10% whiff rate.
Yeah, like that's not sustainable or good at all. So I think he still needs to show more. Like none of his pitches are very good. He's just been able to pitch by utilizing all his pitches and kind of keeping guys off balance that way. So the starts where he doesn't have his command or something's not working for him, it's just going to be pretty bad probably. And if he has everything kind of working, then we'll see starts where he looks pretty good overall. But the lack of strikeouts is very concerning to me. They were ticking up in spring training and all the stuff looked good and he looked like he was going to take a step forward, but he just hasn't been that same guy in the regular season. So I definitely have some concerns with him and I need to see more from him. So I'll fill this one.
Do you have Knack or Stone higher on your list right now?
Stone, because I think there's more upside there. Like we said with Knack, his ceiling and his floor seems to be at the same level. With Stone, I think there's some more upside there and probably a lower floor.
Yeah. Stone's, I'm going to buy on Gavin Stone. To what Blake and I were talking about, the whiff rate was not awesome. The weird thing about Stone is that he has avoided hard contact. He's in the 80th percentile for exit velocity, 80th percentile barrel rate, 81st percentile hard hit rate, chase and whiff rate, both well above average. So strikeout stuff, not good. Walk stuff, not good. But I think that stuff's going to come with time. So I'm buying that Gavin Stone has figured it out. I'm not saying he's going to be like a top 2 starter, but as a guy that could be a competent, like solid major league starter for the rest of the year, I think that's where we're at with Gavin Stone. Let's take a break and get to some of these super chats. We appreciate all those that are coming in. Laura, is there any reason for optimism with Walker Buehler? Laura, let me tell you this. It depends on who you ask on this screen because you're going to get different answers from different screens. We were going to talk about this later, but we can point it out now. Buehler is expected to make another rehab start on Tuesday in Oklahoma City. Dave Roberts said if things go well there, then he would join the Dodgers following that start. My guess is that Landon Knack or Gavin Stone, one of those two guys might be the odd man out. Let's see. I can throw this conversation however I want, whether I go to Matt or Blake first. I'll go to Matt first. Matt, is there reason for optimism with Walker Buehler?
Well, I might disappoint you.
Wow. Are you going to Team Blake?
It's not. I'm not going that far. I don't see reason for optimism per se right now. But I'm not also as pessimistic or concerned as some of our colleagues, and we won't name Scott and Blake for the purpose of this show.
Blake, reason for optimism with Walker Buehler?
I think it depends what you're expecting from him. Like, if you're expecting him to be a middle of the rotation pitcher, like, sure, you can be optimistic about that. If you're expecting him to come back and be the ace like he was before, I don't think there's any reason for optimism for that. So kind of depends on your expectation level. Like, I've certainly been one of the lower people on Buehler. I think this stuff has declined a lot. The velocity has declined a lot. So that's just my take on it. I don't think it's encouraging that he hasn't been great in his minor league starts, or like not even just the production from it. Like the stuff just hasn't been there. And that's kind of what you're looking for and want to see. The command hasn't been there. It's been just a long road to recovery for him. And it seems like every time he starts getting closer, it ends up being the stuff wasn't there. He needs to go and work on more things just pretty consistently. Like the hope was he would come back last year. He wasn't ready. Then maybe for opening day, wasn't ready. Then maybe 2 starts ago after his rehabs, he wasn't ready. And then after his last rehab, it was the hope he would come back, and then he wasn't ready. So it's just, I need to see more from him at this point to be optimistic about him.
I just finished Andy McCullough's book on Clayton Kershaw that's coming out. Andy's coming on our show. I believe that video is going to post Tuesday. And I'll tell you, it got me excited about Buehler. A, because of the stories that you hear about Kershaw and Buehler, but B, it just talks about how Kershaw was able to adjust and adapt when his stuff wasn't exactly what it used to be. And Kershaw's obviously arguably the greatest pitcher of all time. I'm not saying Walker Buehler belongs in the same category, but as far as if we're talking about dog mentality, want to compete, etc., I think there's probably some similarities there. So to be determined. Let's see how Tuesday goes. And for me, it's just, well, let's see what happens once he gets to the major league level. I don't care at all about numbers and results from AAA. Get him to the major league level and see what happens. Another super chat here, $25 from Right Field Pavilion, and also long enough to block our friend Blake entirely from the screen. He said, I've now seen more catcher interference calls in 2024 than I have in the last 5 seasons. What do you believe is causing this? My fear after watching the replay is that Will Smith will end up with a broken left index finger. Blake, I'll come to you. Have you noticed more catcher's interference this year?
Yeah, I feel like there's already been like 5 times more than we saw last year. Like, I can't really remember one from last year at all. But yeah, it seems like there's been a ton of them. So I'm not sure what the reason for that is or anything, but it's interesting. Maybe players are dealing with velocity more and kind of going with more check swings where they're reaching out further to try and just defend the plate more, and then they're hitting the catcher's glove or something. But yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Matt, what about you? Have you noticed more of these?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely picked up. The Dodgers, like focusing on the Dodgers alone, it's happened a lot more than in the past already this season. I'm going to blame it on all the baseball nerds and pitch framers that want to steal strikes.
Your guy, Austin Barnes, is the elite pitch framer.
I know, and I think he's only been hit once, if at all, this season. I feel like the majority of them have been happening to Will Smith.
Well, there you go. I'll take your word for it. But yes, let's protect Will Smith at all costs. Right field pavilion. Thank you very much for the massive super chat. We greatly appreciate it. One more super chat here. What's the latest on Bobby Miller? Matt, we were joking about this right before we came on. There is no latest, is there?
Yeah, I mean, not really. He's I guess it's tough also because the Dodgers were on the road trip, and I don't think the plan was for Bobby to go with them. And so he conceivably could have started throwing at Dodger Stadium, and it just hasn't gotten out yet. But yeah, I mean, it's given the history and the Dodgers' luck, I'll call it, with injuries, I'm a little concerned.
Yeah, I think the latest we got was that he was going to start playing catch earlier, beginning of this week. So that's the latest that we have, Pastor Clyde. So thank you all for the super chat. Let's get into our reliever draft here. Again, here are the rules. We're going to draft all of the Dodger relievers that are on the 40-man roster. The rule number 1 is that you cannot pick Evan Phillips. That's simply because Evan Phillips would make whoever's team gets him win. The player cannot be on the injured list. The player must be on the 40-man roster. And the time frame is right now, meaning you're picking guys, not who guys you think you'll trust in 5 or 6 months. Guys that if you needed 3 outs tomorrow, you would go with. Okay. And so because the 40-man roster is a slightly obscure thing, we've got a helpful chart here. And we randomize the order. Matt gets to go first, and Blake gets to go second. I will go third, and then we will snake draft. These are the 12 guys on the 40-man roster. Ryan Brazier, Nabil Chrismat, JP Fireeyes, and Michael Grove, Daniel Hudson, Joe Kelly, Ramirez, blanking on his first name, apologies to him, Eduardo Salazar, Ricky Vanasco, Gus Varlin, Alex Vesia, and Ryan Yarborough are the guys that we've got here. So, Matt, you've got first choice. Again, this is the non Evan Phillips division. Who do you want for your first pick?
And I'm going to shock you guys by taking Daniel Hudson.
Okay. Daniel Hudson, first pick. I'll slide this guy over. Blake, that means you are up with the second pick. Would you have gone Hudson? Was Hudson top of your list?
Yeah, I think that was the only option for the first spot.
Okay. Well, perfect. That means you're second. And who do you want here, Blake?
So can I trade down here?
No, there's no trading down. Only if the Patriots would have agreed to trade down with the Raiders, I would have made an exception, but they did not. So you're stuck.
This is tough.
If pick number 2 is 12, wait till we get to pick 9 and 10.
Yeah. I think I'm leaning toward Joe Kelly.
Wow.
He's had some bad outings, but he's also had some really good outings. And that's kind of the Joe Kelly experience you're going to get. He's got a 2.86 FIP, so he's probably one of the only other guys with the positive WAR in the bullpen. I think the stuff is going to play up for me. Like, he has the highest upside of everyone left. So, yeah, I think that's my guy there. And I'm hoping the guy I was debating between falls to my next spot.
Matt, Joe Kelly was 7th on my list. Where was
he was probably going to be my next pick if he was still there by the time it came around. I mean, and one thing too, you hear typing from Blake, he's looking everything up. I'm going just straight eye test and hunch here. We just have so many different approaches to our drafts. And I think, Jeff, you'll probably fall somewhere in the middle.
Okay, we're going anti-Dodgers approach. I get back-to-back picks here. We're going all lefties here. So give me Alex Vesia with the 3rd pick and give me Ryan Yarborough with the 4th pick. I like both of these guys. Both Yarbrough was great today. 3 ERA, 0.74 whip. We love that. Alex Vesia hasn't allowed a run in the last 11 2/3, 1.88 ERA on the season. So give me Vesia and Yarbrough. Blake, I'll hand it back to you. Did I take the guy that you were hoping to take?
Yeah, Vesia was probably my other pick there. I just feel like Joe Kelly has better stuff, so I ended up going with him instead.
Okay.
But lefties don't matter. That's what the Dodgers keep saying. It's just about getting guys out.
I'm in trouble if Andrew Friedman's right. So, Blake, who do you want next, fourth in our draft here?
I'm going Ricky Vanasco.
Wow.
I think that's the sleeper pick right there. I think he should be on the roster. I think he's got the stuff. The Dodgers are certainly high on him, giving him a major league deal and trading for him last year. So, yeah, I think he should be on the roster. He's probably one of their better relievers at this point.
So made his major league debut this year, 2 scoreless innings, 1 strikeout, no walks. Does have an ERA of nearly 5 at AAA. I know things are inflated at AAA. It does terrify me. He's also walking 8.5 batters per 9 down in AAA. But hey, maybe that speaks more to where we are with the collective group here. So Matt, you are up. You've got 6th and 7th picks back to back here. Hudson, Kelly, Vesia, Yarbrough, and Vanasco all off the board.
Yeah, I've just decided to have my starter pitch 8 innings and then Hudson only needing to do 1. So I don't need a rest of the bullpen. I'm good.
Okay. Well, there's rules here, Matt. You've got to take people.
I'll go Chris Matt.
Wow. Scotty's guy.
Yeah. I'm expecting a text from Scott at some point. Maybe he'll even hop in this chat. Let's see.
3 innings, 3 scoreless innings at the major league level so far. As a reliever in the minor leagues is scoreless, 3 innings. They've weirdly been using him as a starter, and it hasn't gone great. Was bad last year at the major league level, 8.3 ERA with the Padres and Diamondbacks. But in 2022, he's 2 years removed from a 2.9 ERA in 67 innings. So good value there. Nice looking changeup. A lot of questions about why he was in the minor leagues for as long as he was, but Matt scoops him up here. I can't believe Vanasco went ahead of him, but Blake and Scott can work that one out in their free time. Matt, you're up on the back-to-back here.
I'll do I'll try Brazier.
Yeah,
I know he's struggled, but hopefully they could get him back in the prior lab and get all that ironed out again.
Back-to-back scoreless outings, Matt. He's back, baby.
Yeah, perhaps.
Okay, Blake, you've got Fireisen, Grove, Ramirez, Nick Ramirez. I just remembered his first name. Salazar and Varland.
I'm going to take Grove, and I'm only pitching him in 1 inning.
That's mean.
Only 1 inning. If he goes 2, like, I'm firing the manager on the spot. Just let Grove work in his 1 inning versus righties only. And I think he's a fine reliever.
Were you, I mean, so he had been great in like 5 appearances prior to today's. Classic Grove was good in the first inning, bad in the second inning. Do you think he's a major league reliever, Blake?
If they use him in the right role, like, yeah, there's so many relievers. I certainly think he has the talent to do it. I think he just needs to stay in 1 inning and kind of spam his slider and just stay away from the fastball as much as he can. And then I think he's going to be fine. It's when he starts going multiple innings and facing lefties that he runs into trouble. So I think if you use him in the right role, he can be a quality reliever.
Okay. This is terrifying to stare down these 4 guys knowing that I need to pick 2 of them. JP Fireisen, Nick Ramirez, Eduardo Salazar, and Gus Varland. I have a lefty. What's that?
You need a lefty.
I do need a lefty. I have a feeling I know who Blake wants here, and I think I'm going to leave him for him. Matt already, I'm guessing he can read the tea leaves. He has to already know who's going to be the last pick in this draft.
Yeah, can I trade?
No, you're stuck with our guy. I'm going to go JP Fireisen for my 3rd pick here.
I thought you were leaving my guy.
Yeah, well, maybe that was your guy. I apologize. Not awesome. Not awesome at the major league level, but this is a guy who had like 24 scoreless innings in 2022 before all of 2023. And I was doing some deep dives. His last outing at AAA, he got 8 outs for the Dodgers, 1 hit, no earned runs, no walks, 4 strikeouts. So we're buying the little bump from Fireisen. So give me him, and then give me Ramirez as well. I didn't even know the guy's name a minute ago, but we're gonna grab him. 7 innings, with like 1 earned run, 1.29 ERA for the Dodgers. We're going to ignore that he has 2.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, and we're just going to take the 1 point something ERA. So give me Ramirez. Blake, you've got Salazar and Varland for your last choice here. Which one of those guys do you want?
Yeah, give me Salazar. The Dodgers made some changes in his pitching his stuff, and his fastball is playing up a bit more. I was surprised he didn't get a chance to pitch when they called him up, and I did throw in our chat that he was kind of intriguing. There was some stuff there, so I'll go with Salazar just because I don't think Varland is good at all.
I had Salazar like minus 1,000 to be the last pick in this draft. I was like, there's no chance somebody doesn't take him last. Shout out to Blake. So Matt, what do you want to say to Gus Varland? You're the GM. You're calling him up on draft day to let him know that he gets to be a part of your team. What do you want to say to him?
Yeah, I mean, he's the final piece to my World Series winning bullpen. I think he's not who I didn't expect him to be on the board, certainly this late. So I'm happy with how that worked out.
Okay, so folks in the chat, let us know how you think we did here. Matt's team: Daniel Hudson, Nabil Chrismat, Ryan Brazier, and Gus Varland. Blake has Joe Kelly, Ricky Vanasco, Michael Grove, and Eduardo Salazar. And I have Alex Vesia, Ryan Yarbrough, JP Fireeisen, and Nick Ramirez as well. Those are our teams. Mr. Classic says Blake has the squid again. I don't know if that's a typo or not a typo. That could be a Korea food reference there as well. Oh, he's got Jeff number 1 slightly. So we appreciate that. Mr. Classic says Jeff, Hawaiian Kira says Jeff solely based on Ryan Yarbrough falling to the 3rd and 4th pick. David's got Blake. Michael's got Blake as well. So Matt, I don't know what to tell you here. You're getting no love from the chat.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of Daniel Hudson disrespect. There we go. Thank you.
There you go. The Dodger Blue account says good job, Matt. Howie Land says Blake wins as well. Roy, now everybody's coming into Matt. Now nobody wants me to win. That's fair. That's fair. We'll throw this up. Well, maybe we'll throw a Twitter poll up, and people just can't believe how bad the depth at the Dodgers bullpen is there. So, all right, let's get to some questions here before we head out. We appreciate everybody. As you throw those questions in the chat, let me share a quick announcement with you. Some of you might have seen this already, but if you haven't already, some exciting news for us here at DodgerHeads. We want to give a shout out to our newest sponsor, So Rare. So Rare MLB, introduce you to what they have going on. So Rare MLB combines the thrill of fantasy sports with the excitement of digital collectibles, allowing you to manage your dream baseball team using digital player cards, competing against players around the world. It's free to sign up. It's free to start. Competitions happen twice a week where you can track your team's score as you earn points based on real-life performances. You start by drafting your team from a selection of digital player cards, manage your team to victory in various competitions. You can boost your team by buying, selling, and trading your player cards, earning access to even bigger competitions with better prizes. Prizes includes digital player cards, exclusive digital player cards, cash prizes, signed memorabilia, and unique experiences. Blake, I know you and I have started. When you join, you basically get a free pack of cards. You get 120 points, a salary cap, if you will, to kind of divvy up across a team full of people. For the first 2 weeks, you can switch around your players as much as you want, and then you get those players forever, I suppose. It's kind of like fantasy baseball. There's week-long competitions, weekend competitions. You throw your team, and you compete and all that. So check out So Rare. We've got a link in the description to sign up. Go ahead, click that link, and check all that stuff out. Again, So Rare, you're going to be hearing more and more about them as the season goes on because they've joined us as a sponsor, so we're very excited about that. But please, please, please check out the link in our app. Again, free to sign up. Click the link, sign up, start picking your team, and then we'll let you know about some Dodger Blue competitions and that kind of a thing. So again, So Rare MLB.
Sorry, Jeff, I didn't mean to cut you off. I think another thing too, we might be working on like a free tickets component as well. So we don't have full details on that yet, but that might also be something. And like you said, the fans get to play against you guys after building their rosters and lineups and all that.
It's true. I know Blake and I have a couple people the same on our various rosters. Plenty of Dodgers populating both my roster and Blake's roster. So go ahead and check that out. All right, let's get to some questions here before we close this one out. I'll scroll back up and get to see some of these. Noisy Ninja wants to know if Pages stays, what does it mean for Vargas, if anything? It's not good. It's not good for Miguel Vargas. That's for sure. Blake, I don't see a pathway for Miguel Vargas unless Hayward stays injured. Taylor gets DFA'd. Kike gets injured. I mean, a lot needs to go right for Vargas to get a chance, it feels like.
Yeah, this year it's going to be tough for him. I think the more outlook for him is coming back next year. They have a lot of free agents coming up, and they're going to need to replace them probably with some cheaper deals too, because I don't think they're going to run the payroll as high as they are this season. So I think Vargas certainly slots in next year, and then if there's some injuries, he could find his way up, or maybe a September call-up.
TQT, if you could turn back the clock to the offseason, what spot would you look to improve? Would you go harder after a pitcher like Montgomery, who the Dodgers will see this week in Arizona? Or would you get another high leverage relief pitcher? Would you improve the bench, Matt? What would you do differently knowing everything that you know now?
I think the bench with relievers, Graterol wasn't expected to be injured. And so you're kind of hoping on him coming back. Treinen was, he would have been ready if he didn't take that line drive off the chest. So the bullpen may not necessarily have been, it shouldn't necessarily be as bad, if you will. Starting pitching, I think, can still get better. The bench, I think, is, Kike hasn't really met, I guess, it depends. If your expectations were Blake's, then he's met those. If they were mine, then he's fallen short. Chris Taylor's obviously struggled, so they need a little bit more punch in that regard.
Blake, I think I would. I mean, I'm if we're doing knowing what I know now, my issue with going after more relievers was they didn't have room on the roster. If I know everything I know now, they would have had no issues with getting guys on the roster for opening day. So I would have gone after a reliever. What would your answer have been?
Yeah, I think I would have went with like younger, more high upside relievers instead of the veterans that we kind of knew what they were and maybe didn't have as much potential there. I think you need like hard throwers with upside in the bullpen that get strikeouts, and the Dodgers just kind of don't have that. Like outside of Joe Kelly, Evan Phillips, and Alex Vesia, there's not a whole lot of swing and miss in their bullpen. And even if Brusdar Graterol comes back, he's not a swing and miss guy. So I think I would have been focused on that. Like I said, I didn't love the Ryan Brazier signing at the time, and Joe Kelly, like he's been okay. He was my first pick, but he was paid a lot of money for what he is. So I think there were options where you could have went and found more potential there. Like you could have brought in Matt Moore to help stabilize the left side of the bullpen. He's very solid, and he's not the younger upside guy, but like there's the swing and miss stuff there. So yeah, I think they just need more swing and miss in their bullpen, I guess is the main thing here.
Is that future Cy Young Award winner Matt Moore?
Yeah, he blossomed into one of the best relievers in baseball.
Oh.
Yeah, when you say younger swing and miss relievers, are you talking about Michael Grove or somebody else?
Michael Grove in 1 inning for his righties? Absolutely.
Young with lots of swing and miss, baby. Here we go. David's got a question. Jeff, I noticed you're a Raiders fan, which makes no sense. You should be a Rams fan. What grade do you give the Raiders for the draft? The Raiders were in LA when I was born. I was a rebellious child. My dad was a Rams fan. I said, screw the Rams. I like the black and the silver of the Raiders. And to answer your question, it's an A. They got Brock Bowers. They got my guy, Jackson Powers Johnson, from the greatest university in the history of the world, the University of Oregon. Slam dunk first and second round. Who cares about everything else? So A for the Raiders in the draft. Let's see some more questions here. What's that?
Why does Jeff get called out for being a Raiders fan, but I wasn't called out for being a Patriot fan?
People have just learned to accept that Blake, the Dodgers, Alabama, New England Patriots fan, like it's just, it checks out. There's no questions to be asked.
Okay.
Let's see. Hallelujah. How big of a push would they go after Miller from the A's if he stays consistent and healthy? Would you guys go after him? What are you giving up? Blake, here's your young, throwing 103 miles an hour, missing a lot of bats reliever. You also hate relievers. You hate paying for relievers. I imagine you don't want to trade lots of prospects for relievers. I don't know. Where are you at on Miller from the A's, and would you mortgage the future to go get him?
Isn't Miller starting for them right now?
No, he's their closer. If it's the guy I'm thinking of.
Miller?
Is it Mason Miller or Mac Miller?
No, I think.
Isn't Mac Miller though?
Yeah.
He's a reliever. It's Mason Miller.
Okay.
He's closing games for them. He's got 7 points.
Okay, he was a starter last year in my defense. I didn't know they moved him there, but I don't think they trade him, like, regardless, so probably doesn't really matter anyway. Like, if you go and actually trade for him, you're going to give up a lot more than a reliever's worth, and the Dodgers aren't going to do that, so, yeah.
Yeah, so you would just, the answer is you just wouldn't want to pay what it would cost him to pay.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, you're going to be giving up Andy Pajes or something in that deal, and maybe more. So I just don't think any reliever's worth that.
Yeah. No, I assumed that was going to be the case. Oh man, some Raiders hate in the chat. All right. We've got question. Does Jeff still want to trade for Ha-Sung Kim? I haven't paid attention. Has he been terrible lately?
I honestly haven't seen either.
I think he was regressing for a bit. I don't know how he's done.
He's 109. He's an above average offensive player. 109 weighted runs created plus. Sure. Yeah. Why not? Blake, is there a reason? I mean, you're still on Team Willie Adames, so I guess this is we're different conversations here. Adames 122 weighted runs created plus, so Adames has been better this year. I'll give you that. Which I emotionally hedged. I don't remember if I confessed this on the show. I emotionally hedged and drafted Willie Adames on my fantasy team so that if he was awesome, then you would be right, but at least my fantasy team would benefit. And if he sucked, then I would be right and my fantasy. Like I just, we just made sure everything was even there. So we're good on Willie Adames. We're on Team Willie Adames now, not necessarily for the Dodgers, though.
Well, you're welcome for a great fantasy player.
Yes. Okay. Noisy Ninja. I'm pretty sure I asked Blake and Matt this already. Jeff, your turn. What kind of a viewer are you? Are you chill or get loud when watching the Dodgers? Are we talking October postseason or are we talking regular season? Regular season, very chill. 3 kids around me screaming, making noise, trying my best to pay attention to what's going on. My wife has videos of me during 2020 when the Dodgers are in the World Series. I'm the guy that's like standing up, crouching down, like clapping as loud as I possibly can. I'm an absolute train wreck when the games like get absolutely amplified. So that's where I'm at. Matt, it sounds like maybe you and I are in the same boat.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. Like if Blake are at the stadium, obviously we can't, there's no cheering going on. Also, last October, we were in Arizona and there wasn't a lot of cheering. Like there wasn't any reason to really cheer. But if watching at home, definitely once the playoffs start, it's a lot different than the regular season. Regular season, I'm very much like, okay, like let's, it's fine. Whatever sort of happens. So the Dodgers, one way or another, will win 100 games and probably the NL West, and we'll go from there.
Blake, I imagine, have you ever yelled and screamed at a sporting event like from your house ever?
I don't think so. Maybe once or twice in a Super Bowl or something, but I really don't think so.
Yeah. Fair enough. I would know what it was like to be playing a Super Bowl when I was like 12. That's all I got for Super Bowl experience. We got Rose Bowls here in college football season, and that's kind of it. So, all right. Well, hey, folks, thank you so much for joining us here on DodgerHeads Live on Sunday night. Again, we greatly appreciate almost 900 people in here live on a Sunday night. We're here every Sunday night. I am back. I had a conflict for the last few months. Matt's taken a couple weeks off as well. So it'll be me and Blake for the next few weeks on Sunday nights. Of course, we've got Tuesday night live shows with Scott and myself, Friday night live shows with Anthony Witrato and myself, and then DodgerHeads Daily. We got a huge week. I mentioned Jack Harris. We should have an interview of him posting tomorrow morning. Andy McCullough on his new book with Clayton Kershaw posting Tuesday. So tons of great content. If you have not already, please subscribe and ring the notification bell down below. We would greatly appreciate that. Check out DodgerBlue.com for all the latest notes, game recaps, all of that kind of thing. You can find the writing of Matt and of Blake and of Scott and all sorts of other people there as well. So enjoy the rest of your Sunday night, folks. As always, go Dodgers.